Hi guys, it's Matt. Welcome to the video. I am a compulsive gambler in recovery and your mind and movement mentor, here to help you. So I haven't been doing as much YouTube content recently. I've been doing other gambling content on more of a short form platform, but I'm back. Missed the YouTube. I love the longer form style, allows me to go down the rabbit hole a little bit further with some of the topics that I love to talk about. So back with another video today, and today I want to talk about something that is really alarming to think about. It is what is the scariest part for me anyway of gambling addiction. And this is why it is so essential that you proactively recover and make the effort to recover from this cunning, powerful and baffling addiction, as opposed to just winging it and abstaining and relying on willpower, etc., etc. And that is that I don't think it ever really leaves you. I think it can come back and haunt you. And I've heard stories of people who have been over 20 years off of gambling and gone back to it in a moment with the severity that they left off at a couple of decades prior, which is staggering to think about. And I've got a bit of a personal story, a bit of personal experience with this in my story. And that is the longest I've ever had off of gambling was from February 2009 until New Year's Day, 1st of January 2013. So that's what, just shy of 4 years. And I remember it. Down to a combination of maybe a bit of post-Christmas blues, the weather was crap, full of sugar, a combination of, I returned back to gambling on New Year's Day, 2013, live game on Sky Sports, I think it was the 5:30 kickoff. It was Southampton at home to Arsenal. And I had a couple of £100 on Arsenal to win. And the game ends 1-1. Draw. And immediately at the full-time whistle, I could feel my brain back in the, okay, what are we going to do about it? When's the next game? And I remember it was Newcastle-Everton the next night. And I remember all I could think about was, what am I going to bet on that game? I'm back in it now, want to get my money back. The match has been lit, if you will. The seal is broken. And I remember I tried to have a bath, and it was just myself. I was just at home on my own at the time, living on my own, and almost like tried to meditate and just tried to kind of think, okay, relax. A few £100 is not completely life-changing. You'll come back from this. We don't need to go back into the frenetic space of 4 years ago. And literally by the end of that week, I was probably 3 to 4x down what I'd lost on that game on the New Year's Day. And by the end of January, I was 10, probably 12x, 15x down. By the third week to the end of January, I was just back at it like that, with all of the time off that I'd had, all of the letting my brain, I suppose, come back to normal after all the lunacy of February 2009. I remember that phase and not a particularly fond period in my life. I was able to stop it. There was so much going on. There was lots of debt, if I'm honest, lots of deep and stern conversations with family members. And the rest of 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, very, very fond memories of being free from gambling. And then just almost in a moment, I suppose it wasn't fully a moment, it was kind of a crescendo of not managing things leading up to that point. I'm sure it wasn't a fully momentary decision on New Year's Day 2013. There were some signs probably from before Christmas and probably early December that I didn't spot. If you've seen some of my videos, you know I like the analogy of the plane crash for relapse, which is, yes, it's about something that happens on that day, aka unexpected weather, a pilot error. But usually that in and of itself isn't enough to bring the plane down. It's that coupled with something 2 weeks prior that went unchecked, a maintenance log, flight plans, something like that, and something 4 to 5 weeks prior that wasn't looked or picked up at. And it's the combination of those things together that leads to the relapse, as opposed to just one isolated incident. And if 3 out of 4 happen, often the bet doesn't get placed, the flight just carries on and no one knows any different. Or 4 out of 4 happen, problem. And I have met people, other compulsive gamblers, who have genuinely told me that, you know, they can just, in a mode, switch and go and place a bet, and it maybe hasn't been bubbling, perhaps maybe it has in the subconscious that they've not quite given credit for. But for me, it's always this shall I, shan't I start to think not particularly correctly. I maybe don't reach out, I don't have conversations about that. That goes, I rationalize that stage. Something else happens here, I'm thinking more about it, I'm checking odds, gambling's taking up more space in my mind, more mental bandwidth, I'm still not having conversations, I'm not doing anything about it. And it's kind of like, and here is where I place the bet. And that may be different for others, that may be something that you've experienced. But the point I'm trying to make here is that once I had placed that bet, I was immediately back into my compulsive pattern that I believe will stay with me until the day I die, which is why it's never advisable to test yourself. It's never advisable to go and buy a scratch card and think, I've done 1 year, 2 year, 10 years, 15 years off. Let's see how this goes. For me, it is a hard line in the sand that I am a thoroughbred compulsive gambler, and it's not to be messed with. It's not an option that I can gamble socially, recreationally, now and then. This is a binary no or yes, and it's a no in my case. I can't gamble. And I think that can be a bit depressing if you let it. The fact that it is scary and it is daunting that it could switch so quickly back into that lunacy. I'll be 11 months off in 1 week today, and recovery feels the best it's ever felt. I feel different, contrasted to any other period I've had off in the past. And that is something I think attested to the proactive work that I've done in regard. So I don't want to live my life scared of that. I want to use that to respect the addiction even more, and almost take it as a given, as an assumption that if I do bet this evening, I do just go back fully into the madness and the chaos and the fog, and use that as a leverage to stop myself going back there, rather than thinking about it as it's so scary, the thought of it. I've just got to use it as like additional leverage. But yeah, that is my personal experience, and from many other people I've spoke to as well, that once the addictive patterns are locked in the mind, it's very unlikely that you're going to change them once that is there, kind of hardwired. So best not to test yourself, best to be proactive in your recovery, do the right things, work on your character defects, work on learning more about the addiction, surrounding yourself with a positive peer group of like-minded people, all the other things that I talk about in these videos. So that story really still haunts me to recall out loud, to remember it. But you know, I'm in a good place, and I'm really enjoying making these videos. Back on YouTube, I've got some great interviews coming up and some really good content with other compulsive gamblers coming at you soon in the next couple of weeks. Please share this video if you took any value from it with someone who is interested in these topics, or you think is someone who potentially struggles with problem gambling. As I always say, it alarms me the trajectory that problem gambling is on, coupled with how normalized it is in modern society. That is not a good blend, that's a perfect storm. It worries me as a compulsive gambler as I see the numbers moving in the wrong direction. So anything that helps me reach more people and supports this channel, I am truly grateful for. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. And like I say, I will see you in the next video very soon. Take care.